Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by my co-host Cody Tanner. Cody, how are you on this fine Monday?
James, it's a losing Monday, so I'm not as good as normal. But that's okay. It happens. It'd be like that sometimes. How are you doing?
Doing all right, man. Be better if Pittsburgh would have played a little better, but yeah, lots of things involved in that not being a great performance.
A lot of things. We'll get into all of that. We are excited to talk about this game, even though we lost. Still excited to talk Steeler football. We're not going to waste any time. We're going to talk about it. Inactives for this game were Mason Rudolph, Levi Wallace, Dylan Cook, and Braden Fajoko. Nothing out of the ordinary there whatsoever.
Yeah. Only new thing was Levi Wallace. That was just because he had an injury. Otherwise, he would have been active.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of things that I thought kind of like were going to go right in this game, and none of them went right in this game. And the things that I didn't think would be a problem were a problem. It was just a weird game all around. I felt like we came out flat again, punting on the first 4 drives, having 3 and outs 4 times in a row before the refs got involved. That was just crazy to me. And they shared a stat that was, and I'm sure you heard this too, 45% of our first drives are 3 and outs, which is crazy.
So that's actually the first time I've heard of that.
Yeah, 45% are 3 and outs.
Of our opening drives on games, is that what that is?
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds right. They haven't been doing anything on opening drives.
No, and that's not saying that, that's not saying 55% are scores. That's just saying 45 are 3 plays and out.
Yeah, because so far this season, 0 of them are touchdowns.
Yep.
I don't know how many are field goals, but I know none of them have been a touchdown.
Maybe 1 or 2, probably.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe, but I wouldn't be surprised if the number is 0 because they've been starting so slow.
Yep.
Let's get right after the first couple drives. And to me, the most frustrating part about this is that finally I felt like we had the play calling that was necessary to open the game up.
Mm-hmm.
In the first couple drives, Deontay Johnson looked like the Deontay Johnson of 2 or 3 years ago where he couldn't catch anything.
Yep.
And it basically stayed to those first couple of drives because he corrected it, and then he started catching everything that came his way, assuming that he stayed on his feet. But that was just devastating. Your first offensive play, whatever the concept was that they drew up, had Deontay Johnson over the middle. Both of the safeties were split on the side. There's nobody within 10 yards of him. It hits him in both hands and bounces right off.
Would have been a huge start to the game.
Stride. It would have easily been 50 to 60 yards, if not a touchdown, on the very first play of the game.
Yep.
And it kind of set the tone, man. It set the tone. Deontay continued his struggles dropping the ball the first couple drives. Even on a third down, he slipped running his route, and Kenny threw the ball where it was supposed to go and where he would have been had he not slipped, and it was dang near intercepted.
Yep.
Probably should have been intercepted, actually. It hit the guy right in the chest.
Yeah.
Just a miserable start. And again, Pittsburgh on their home field having an issue with footing, not having the right cleats on. I don't know how in the world they're not cutting enough in the beginning of the game before the game starts to realize that those cleats aren't gonna be right for them. But seems like the same guys having the same issues with that, and it's very frustrating because I felt like for once the way this game went, you can't blame it on Matt Canada. Like you can't.
Nope.
Like the play calls were there.
You can't blame it on him.
The execution wasn't.
Yeah, you can't blame it on him. I still think that later in the game, I think we took too long to get moving in the second half. I feel like we were just slow again in the second half, which I expected us to come out firing. And I'm not saying, I don't know, the first, especially when the defense does so much. The defense did so much to keep us in this game. And,
kept on handing us short fields.
Yep. And literally the first drive of the second quarter, we went 9 yards in the opposite direction, in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
You can't do that after we forced a fumble and got it back. You can't do that. Like that will just defeat your defense and your offense. So I don't know. I'm not blaming it on Matt Canada. I still don't think we've fixed all the issues. I still don't think he has the game plan to get us. I don't think, let me clarify. I think he is getting better at play calling in the beginning of the game, but I don't think he knows what to do when times get rough. Like, how do I get back in this game? How do we make this happen? I haven't seen that yet because I still even question some of the play calls after the fact. But I do agree that the play calling in the beginning of this game, just the execution wasn't there. Deontay Johnson was targeted 14 times in this game and had 8 catches.
Yeah. And literally, we could have had a touchdown, but he fell in the end zone.
Yep.
And people will say that was a bad throw by Kenny Pickett. No, it wasn't, because if he throws it on Deontay Johnson, it's intercepted. It has to be behind him because the safety's coming from the middle of the field and crashing on him.
Yep.
It's where it needed to be for the ball to be completed, but Deontay needed to be able to stay on his feet, and he fell again. At this point, that was the second time that he'd fallen and a ball ended up incomplete because of it. But in the end zone, in the most important part where we're struggling to score,
yep.
Just it seemed like over and over with it, just miscommunications, and then it just got worse once Kenny got hurt. Mitch had one drive where we got a touchdown, which was basically 100% George Pickens on that play.
Yep.
Why he wasn't targeted more, I don't know. They must have been double teaming him all game long or something.
5 targets on the day. That was it.
Yeah.
1 catch.
Yeah, not enough. And what does he do with the 1 catch? He breaks 2 tackles and goes in for a touchdown. Yeah. I mean, the skill level is obvious. And then you get to the end of the game there with Mitch Trubisky in, and he played basically the entire second half, and he refused to throw it downfield. And when he did throw it downfield, it was intercepted.
Yep.
Everything on the last 2 drives was a dump off to the running backs, a dump off to Connor Hayward, who's basically a running back, or throw to the sideline 1 or 2 yards past the line of scrimmage. And it's impossible to come back throwing everything for only 3 or 4 yards. I think I counted like 5 plays in a row on the one drive where it was a 4-yard pass.
Yep.
I was like, this is insane. And that's not play calling, because the only play in the playbook that the running back is the first option is a halfback screen. Everything else, your running back is the last option. And Mitch was using him as the first option. He wasn't even trying to push it to his other guys down the field. And maybe he was a little shell-shocked from throwing those interceptions and some other ones that were interceptable balls that he threw. But you have to throw it down the field. You're a quarterback, man. It's not like you're a running back playing quarterback. You're a quarterback. You have to throw it down the field.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, but let's talk about that while we're on it real quick for a second. We're kind of not going in the order we normally do, and that's fine, in my honest opinion. When Kenny got hurt, that was the absolute worst no-call roughing the passer that I've ever seen, especially if you go back and view what they called on us in the same exact game as roughing the passer. The cleanest tackle I've ever seen. He even pulled up. The refs even said, or the commentators even said something about it, that, hey, that wasn't really there. Same thing with the penalty they called on us for having the one lineman over the center, which wasn't there. And Chris Boswell posted on his Instagram story showing the line and being like, no one's passed him.
Not to mention, not only was no one on the Steelers line offsides, one of the guys on the other team was lined up offsides. He was literally past the line of scrimmage. It wasn't even like a neutral zone infraction. He was on the wrong side. His helmet was past the line, and they called it on us and not them.
Yeah. Refs clearly had some money in this game or something, or the NFL wanted Jaguars to win, which is, James, what you said to me at the beginning. I'm not one for conspiracy theories and stuff, but man, this game just felt like we were screwed from the get-go with how the refs called it. And I hate to say that, because I just want the refs to not get involved. Yeah. Called the obvious stuff. Even in that situation, if a guy was, over the line or whatever, that didn't affect the outcome of the play.
No.
Not even slightly.
And what they're looking for in that is somebody who's very obviously well past it, not somebody who might be really close to it and it's a close thing. They're looking for someone who's trying to get an advantage, and it's not even for that they're looking for it for. They're looking for it for those goal line quarterback sneaks. So the official that called it was completely missing the mark on what her bosses are actually looking for in looking for that sort of penalty. They're trying to keep it from being an unfair advantage in that quarterback sneak that the Philadelphia Eagles do. And instead, she's trying to find somebody lined up offsides on a field goal that's 55 yards. That's actually disadvantageous to be further forward because you need to be further back in order to protect the kicker.
Yep.
Completely just, that's like not even understanding basic football.
Yeah, I don't know. And we went to they took 3 points off the board right there. We went on to miss the following kick, which I'm frustrated for Boswell. That was his first missed field goal of the year, wasn't it?
Correct. Yeah, and he made the 55-yarder but missed the 60-yarder.
Yep. Yeah. So really frustrated about that. I just thought the refs called this game absolutely horrible. Deontay Johnson also said something on his Instagram or on Twitter about it as well.
Yeah.
I don't blame them at this point. If the NFL has an agenda on who they want to be good or whatever, that's fine. I guess. Like, you can desire that, but you got to go. I don't know.
You still got to call things fairly.
Yeah.
Can a team get like an extra call here or there in a game because you want somebody like Trevor Lawrence to be a poster boy for the league? I get that. Like, he's the good-looking kid quarterback. You want him to be the guy that's selling jerseys. You want him to be one of the people up there with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. I get that. But don't allow other people to get hurt because you're not willing to throw a penalty for roughing the passer. Don't throw an unnecessary one where it's as clean as can be. Don't throw a pass interference on James Pierre when he doesn't even make contact with the receiver.
That's the one I wanted to talk about. That was the best coverage I've seen by a Steelers corner in years. And it was flagged late. They didn't even call it when it happened. They're like, oh no, shoot, we should probably give them the first down.
Yeah, and it was third down when it happened. That stopped the first down from happening.
Yep.
And they got it because of that bogus call.
Yep.
Like, I try not to get worked up about refereeing, but this was pretty awful in this game, man. Like, it literally impacted the outcome of the game.
4 massive calls.
Yeah.
That all were disadvantages or advantages for Jacksonville. Disadvantages for us, advantages for Jacksonville. So I don't know. I was just at a loss of word. And you're gonna probably feel the same way about here. And I don't care that we're not again going over this like normal. But I was upset at the lack of use of Darnell Washington. We threw the ball twice to Rodney Williams, who dropped both of them, but we didn't throw any passes to Darnell Washington this entire game. I don't understand that.
And he was only on the field for 10 snaps offensively. And you guys know exactly how I feel about it. That's why Cody knows exactly as well. You know, we're talking about this as a man that is a huge matchup nightmare for other teams, but not if he's sitting on the sideline. Not if you're only bringing him on the field just to run the ball behind him. Like, they're making it so obvious as to what the play calls are by the personnel grouping. It's insane, man. Like, you bring Calvin Austin on the field, it's a pass play. You bring Darnell Washington on the field, it's a run play. Like, you have to be diverse in your groups. You have to be able to run and pass out of the same formations. And it's not happening. And that's my biggest takeaway from this coaching staff-wise.
Matt Canada.
Is that they didn't do a good enough job of incorporating people who give you an advantage.
Yeah. Yeah, it was rough. Just because we always do this, I'm going to go over it real quick. Mitchell Trubisky was 15 of 27 for 138 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions. Not a great thing. Again, that touchdown was mostly George Pickens. Kenny Pickett was 10 of 16 for 73 yards, no touchdown, no interception. Looking at the running backs, James, this was horrible. Jaylen Warren had the best average for running backs at 3.8 with 5 carries for 19 yards. Najee Harris, 7 carries for 13 yards, a 1.86 yard average. That's getting a first down every 6 plays, and we're not getting 6 plays, maybe 7. You're not getting that many chances to get a first down. It's 3 chances, and you punt, or you can go for it on 4th down. I don't know. It was horrible all game long. We did 2 runs with Calvin Austin that I thought were not horrible, but awkwardly timed. The one he got the edge and made the move happen a little bit, and he got the first down, which was nice. But outside of that, it just feels off. It feels like you're trying to force something to happen that, again, we've talked about this before. You have to play action that. You have to do that and then pass out of it and have something work. Otherwise, they're never going to view that as a threat, ever.
Yeah. And this is part of the whole, like, I know a lot of Steelers fans get upset with the jet motion happening over and over and over. But unless you do that jet motion on a regular basis, when you do the handoff to the wide receiver, they know it's coming.
Yep.
So you have to put that guy in motion on a regular basis and pretend to hand it off to him way more often than they're doing.
They do the jet,
Right.
They do the motion, but they don't pretend to hand it off to him ever, it feels like.
Yeah.
Ever, which is the problem.
Yeah, the timing's so drastically different that everyone knows that it's not happening.
Mm-hmm.
He's already either way past the quarterback or he's not even close to the quarterback. So you already know it's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those plays were successful because you got 5 yards each time out of it. So, hey, that's a successful run. But when you're looking at the whole rushing team together and your most success was 2 5-yard end arounds by your 170-pound wide receiver, that's really bad.
Very bad. Now, don't get me wrong. Jacksonville did very well against the run. I mean, that's not to take anything away from Jacksonville. Jacksonville's a very good run-stopping team. But you knew that going into it. You've had time to prepare. You should have had some kind of game plan to do something about this, and there was nothing. Absolutely nothing.
And it goes right back to what you're saying with Darnell Washington. Do you really expect Connor Hayward at 230 pounds to help you in the run blocking game? Nope. He can't.
I don't
the
think
only
Matt
people
Canada...
he's going to be successful against is the safeties and corners, but he's going to be matched up against linebackers and defensive ends.
Yep. I don't think Matt Canada watches film on other teams. I genuinely don't. There's no way. And either that or he doesn't know what he's looking for. He probably looks and be like, oh, this play worked against them. Yeah, because they did something different than how we're doing it. Or they had different personnel. Or even, you know what? And you just hit the nail on the head and just made me think of this. You know how, like, you can't, if Calvin Austin's out there, it's a pass play. If Darnell Washington's out there, it's a run play. He's looking at these plays and the formations that are working, but not realizing that those teams do other plays out of those formations. That's probably what it is. Because that's my biggest pet. Like, that's, I'm not going to try to bring up video games, but like, there are people that I know that are suck at video, like Madden, the football video game, because if they come out in a certain formation, they're running. If they come out in a certain formation, they're passing. And I know that every time I play them. And it's the same thing. And that's why I think other teams are telling us or saying after they beat us that, you know,
so predictable.
It's so predictable.
Mm-hmm.
So predictable. I'm going to go, now that I'm going to record this game this week, James, I'm going to deep dive the living daylights out of it.
As you should.
I want to come back and have some fun things to say. So it'll be a good time.
Yeah, so let's talk about this receiving group here. Deontay Johnson had 8 catches for 85 yards. Once he got the drops and the slips out of the way in the first half, he was a lot more effective of a weapon. Did help them move the sticks quite a few times.
Yep.
Najee Harris, 5 receptions for 42 yards. Connor Hayward, 5 for only 24 yards. George Pickens had 1 for 22, and it was a touchdown. And he had other opportunities where there was a sideline throw that Mitch threw to him where he dang near got that second foot in bounds and was just barely out.
Yep.
And again, if the ball is thrown like 6 inches further inbounds, he makes the catch that way. And then there was a deep ball opportunity that Kenny had where he underthrew it. Had he not underthrown the ball, George had, 4 or 5 steps on his guy. Got to get it out in front of him in that situation. If you do that, then we're talking about 3 catches for like 80 yards and a touchdown instead of 1 for 22 and a touchdown. Calvin Austin, 2 for 19 on the game. Jalen Warren, 4 for 19. And then nobody else had any catches with 1 target down, Robinson, 2 to Rodney Williams. So just overall diverse in how it was spread out, but not enough, in my opinion, as far as wide receiver diversity. It was basically either going to Deontay Johnson or a running back.
Yep.
And I'm kind of lumping Connor Hayward in with the running backs on that because he wasn't running any patterns down the field that they were throwing it to him.
No,
I mean,
like he has in the
5
past.
catches for 24 yards, it's 5 yards a pass. Like, it's everything was just a dump off out of the backfield when he got it.
Yep. Yeah, I think Pittsburgh next year, when they have a different offensive coordinator, has a chance to be something, but I just don't think it's going to happen this year. After the bye week, I haven't seen enough change to make me get excited for the rest of the year. Unfortunately, I think the defense is going to put up numbers and be entertaining, which is great, but defense can only do so much when your offense doesn't put up more than 10 points when they've had multiple opportunities. You want to talk offensive line? I don't have much to say about them.
No, it wasn't a stellar game, and they didn't open up lanes. There was a couple of times that Chooks Okorafor just got like bench pressed right into the backfield, right into Kenny's lap. There was another time where Mitch felt pressure and he just like dove into the back of the knees of Dan Moore, and Dan missed a couple snaps because of it. And it was just quick pressure. When guys lost, they lost quickly. It wasn't like somebody was working them, and then they beat them. It was they lost after the first or second step, making it a very difficult thing for the quarterbacks to stand in the pocket and make those throws. Yeah, just not a great performance from them, man. We saw Broderick Jones as a 6th offensive lineman a few times. I liked that. He was a complete butt kicker when he was used in that manner.
Yep.
I think in goal line, you're on to something. Instead of having Connor Hayward out there as a tight end, put Broderick Jones out there, put Darnell Washington out there, and run behind those guys.
Yep.
But do it on the left side.
And
do it on the left side with Dan Moore, please. Do not do it on the right side of Chooks.
No, don't. Audible or, motion Broderick Jones back into a fullback position. I don't care. Multiple times, whenever he comes in as that 6th offensive lineman, he's an eligible receiver, play action pass, Broderick Jones touchdown. You got to be unique. You got to be creative in how you win these games. And that's why you see all these teams. I mean, yesterday, excuse me, it might have happened before in the past, but yesterday I saw something that I was like, y'all should have held out on using this. Eagles did a fake tush push. Or brotherly shove. They did a fake and they ran around and it got a touchdown. And I was like, I would have waited for a slightly better team than the Cardinals for that, but that's fine.
But they put it out there now.
They did. And
so certain people are not going to be able to get involved and defend it.
Yep. Yeah. And it's just creativity that I just feel like Matt Canada has zero creativity when it comes to play calling.
Yeah.
I
think this jumbo, man, we're on to something with this jumbo. If they would put Broderick Jones and Darnell Washington on Dan Moore's side, and Dan Moore's specialty is run blocking, let's not sugarcoat this. As a run blocker, Dan Moore is very good. If you have him, Broderick Jones, and Darnell Washington all next to each other in goal line on the left side, and you run to the left behind it, you're going to move some people and you're going to convert some first downs and touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like that's the Steelers cheat code right there. I'm telling you right now, those 3 guys and run behind it.
We'll see what they do. We will
Not
see.
That.
They won't. They won't. I'm losing all kind of excitement and faith in this offense, unfortunately. Defensive side of the ball, we talked about this. The guys played very, very well. I thought Montravius Adams had a phenomenal game. He had a tackle for loss on that defensive front. I thought DeMarvin Leal had a decent game. Isaac Loudermilk got some playing time. Keanu Benton got some playing time. I was really impressed. I mean, even Armand Watts had a half sack.
Yeah, Armand was a very active player in this game for sure. The biggest one I was impressed with was Cole. I thought Cole was all over the place, getting a lot of tackles at or behind the line of scrimmage against the run. I felt like he was one of our best run defenders in this game. And this is something that we've had a question about all season long. Who's going to step up out of this middle linebacker group? Sometimes they have good games, sometimes they don't. Quan Alexander had a huge hit in this game, forced a fumble that popped like 10 yards up in the air and then went back 15 yards. And
Cole Holcomb did a great job of picking it up with the grass in his helmet too.
Yeah. Cole recovered it. Excellent manner there. We got some contribution from the linebackers, and a little bit from the defensive line as well. We got some sack numbers from a little bit of everybody there.
Yep.
But I felt like the safety play really let us down in this game. DeMonte KZ just completely misplaying a ball to Travis Etienne, completely overrunning it, jumping and trying to pick it off, and he missed it by a good 2 feet. If
or
he
more.
just if he just plays that correctly, it's an easy interception at the very least. If not, he should be breaking that up very easily.
Was that?
I mean, you could.
Was that before? That was. So he got that first interception early, and then I think he got ball hungry after that, and that's why he was doing.
It might be exactly what it was. Yeah. And then, of course, at this stage in the game, Minkah Fitzpatrick was already down with a hamstring injury, which looked like a significant one, unfortunately.
Yeah, no contact hamstring injury.
Yeah. I'm very concerned about that one. We'll find out more about that in a couple of days here, because they'll make moves as far as injured reserve and stuff very soon here. But I just felt like we didn't get enough out of the other safeties. Miles Killebrew looked just lost in coverage a few times. Keanu Neal struggles to keep up with people in coverage. Evan Ingram just had a field day on us, man. Absolute field day.
And he didn't at first. James Pierre had that great coverage on him. No, that wasn't on him. That was on somebody else. But like, there were a couple times where he, was on third down, was going to get a first down, and they stopped him. They stuffed him. Like, the defense played phenomenally well at the beginning, and we just kept getting crapped on by the refs and by play calling and by this and that. Not play calling as much, but at least in the beginning of the game. But again, just couldn't pull it together. We talked about the secondary, the defensive front. Landon Roberts led the team with a sack and a half. You think that was frustrating? I blame you.
The only thing that was frustrating for me about it is that was taking some sacks away from TJ Watt, from Alex Highsmith, some guys that are higher production kind of guys that were also involved in them.
Yeah.
But you have to be happy about Landon Roberts' abilities getting after it in this game, at least getting some sacks, registering some hits. He's streaky, man. He's a real streaky player. There's times where he has nice plays like that, and then there's other times where he's trying to cover a running back or a tight end in coverage, and you're just like, oh, my Lord, what are we doing with this guy? And I felt like it was real streaky for 2 of the 3. Quan Alexander, I felt was real up and down too. He had that awesome hit where he forces the fumble, and then later on he has some real struggles with tackling and open in space. So just frustrating all around on it. Nice to see Alex Highsmith back in the sack column. Another half sack for TJ as well.
I don't know.
Waiting for a dominant performance from someone.
Anybody.
Yeah, Nick Herbig back in the action again, right?
Yep.
Yeah. He got a fumble recovery in this game, was it?
I believe it was a fumble recovery. I don't remember. They don't have it listed on the stats correctly right now. But again, it's just you want to see the defense play as well as they did with the sacks. I mean, questionably even better. Also, DeMonte KZ had 2 mental errors, but let's talk about the other one real quick. That first interception.
I'm sorry, it was a forced fumble with Nick Herbig. He ripped the ball out.
Forced fumble. Oh, you're right. Yeah. The other problem that I have with DeMonte KZ, obviously he drastically misjudged that one interception, but even the interception that he did have wound up taking it out of the end zone and ran out of bounds at the 3 or 4 yard line.
Yeah,
like completely ruining any momentum we had. Your defense or your offense then has to come out and play backed up, which don't get me wrong, they made it work. They got down in field goal position, but then that was when the refs screwed us and the penalty that wasn't there and points off the board and everything else. I don't want to say that I completely lost faith in this team because, again, the refs played a heavy hand in this game. Normally, I'd be like, the refs did this, but you still had another 30 minutes of gameplay after that to go out and win it. And they kind of, we lost our starting quarterback due to an injury that happened because of an illegal hit that wasn't called. You took 3 points off the board from us, literally. You gave them free points with a first down on a pass interference that wasn't there. Like, there was so much that impacted the game that I don't blame, or I'm not upset by saying a portion of this game was because of the refs. I'm comfortable saying that this time compared to other times.
Yeah, they had a much larger influence on the game than they should have. There's no doubt about that. There's no questioning that. Do you want to move past this at this point and get into post-game stuff?
Please.
Yeah. So injuries from this game appears to be a significant injury for Minka Fitzpatrick on the hamstring.
Yep.
Like Cody mentioned, it was a non-contact injury. Those are the scariest. So we'll know more in the next few days. We're going to do another show for you guys on Wednesday, being that it's a Thursday night game this week. So the pregame show will be Wednesday night for you this week. Hopefully we'll have a little more insight on Minka's injury at that point. Kenny, with the rib injury, I'm concerned about it because he wasn't able to come back into the game. He was throwing the ball, but my concern is that he must have had a pretty serious amount of discomfort in doing so, and I don't know if that's going to get a lot better with only 3 days rest.
Yep. I don't see him playing this week.
Yeah, I feel like this is probably going to be a Mitch game here. Now, granted, last time this happened, we were worried about should Kenny play, should he play? I don't know. He looks pretty hurt. He comes out there and balls out and does just fine. He's tough. He's a tough kid, but he's also smart. He's smart enough to know that he shouldn't have played in the second half.
Yeah. Yeah, he tried to throw, realized he couldn't. He came out suited up after the second half, but then once he was throwing on the sideline with Mitch and everything, and just decided it was a no-go. So we'll see what happens with that injury. Post-game roster moves so far, there's only been technically 2. Steelers signed a linebacker, Michael Walker, to the practice squad, and they also released Caleb Johnson. Those are the only 2 moves. Again, we'll see something more here in just a few days or even potentially tomorrow with the injured reserve list. Potential for Cam Hayward coming back, potential for Anthony McFarland to come back. Would love to see that move.
I think there's less urgency on that now. Just to be 100% spirit, we kind of glossed over it because just kind of a miserable game in general. But I'll give Donald Igwebuike credit. He did have some nice kick returns in this game.
I thought he only had one.
Out of him. Was it only one?
I thought it was only one for like 30 yards or 36 yards. Or...
I remember him having a nice kick return in the game.
I'm pretty sure it was only one.
Yeah, you're right. 1 for 36 yards.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for Pittsburgh, a 36-yard kick return is a really nice kick return, man.
Yep.
So give the kid credit. He had a nice return given the opportunity finally. So step in the right direction. Maybe there's less urgency to rush Anthony McFarland back. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. No, I'll hold my breath for anything at this point. That's going to wrap up this show. Also, a reminder to you guys, we will be having a live stream Wednesday night as well at 7 o'clock for Midweek Mayhem on the Pro Sports Fans app, PSF. If you haven't downloaded that yet, just go on to your mobile device, whether it's Apple, Android, any of those things. Just type in Pro Sports Fans. It'll pop right up. Download that. Join the Steelers community chat in the NFL grouping. You can see it if you're a fan of an NHL or MLB team. You can obviously go join those as well if you want to. Just a lot of diehard fans talking about their team, and we are some of the hosts on there. There's a couple hosts that host during games, host midweek shows, all that kind of stuff. So we're super excited about that moving forward with Pro Sports Fans. Again, thank you guys so much for listening and watching. Be sure to like and follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Subscribe and ring that bell. It's free. And until next time, this is your host, James and Cody, signing off.
Peace.